3 months had passed since Kate Morrison walked out of the peace talks. The galaxy had noticed the change immediately. Human ships that once traveled freely between alien worlds had simply vanished. Trade routes that had carried Earth goods to distant planets went quiet. Most strange of all, the humans had stopped talking. For years, human explorers and merchants had been known throughout the galaxy for one thing above all others. They never shut up. They would talk to anyone about anything. They asked endless questions about alien cultures, shared stories about Earth, and seemed genuinely interested in making friends with every species they met. Now, silence. General Rick Carter stood in the war room deep beneath the city of Geneva on Earth. Around him, holographic displays showed the position of every human military ship, every colony, and every space station. The room buzzed with quiet activity as hundreds of officers worked at computer terminals. "Report," Carter said to Colonel Lisa Park, his second-in-command. Lisa looked up from her data tablet. "All colonial defense forces are at maximum alert. Luna Shipyard is producing vessels around the clock. Mars Shipyard is doing the same. Europa Shipyard just finished its third expansion." Carter nodded. For decades, humanity had maintained a small, peaceful military focused mainly on exploration and asteroid mining. Most human ships carried science equipment, not weapons. That was changing fast. "What about our intelligence gathering?" Carter asked. Dr. Alan Brooks stepped forward. He had been studying alien military forces for 3 years, ever since the first peace talks began. His team had collected information on every major species in the galaxy. "Sir, we have complete files on 17 different alien military forces. We know their ship designs, their weapons, their tactics, and most importantly, their weaknesses." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Weaknesses?" "Every species fights according to their biology and culture," Brooks explained. "The Zephyrians rely on overwhelming numbers and direct frontal attacks. The Hive Confederation uses coordinated swarm tactics, but cannot adapt quickly when their plans fail. The crystalline hegemony has incredibly strong defenses, but moves very slowly." "And what does that tell us?" Brooks smiled grimly. "It tells us that none of them have ever fought an enemy like humans. They have never faced a species that adapts as fast as we do, or one that refuses to follow their rules of warfare." While this conversation took place on Earth, other humans were already at work throughout the galaxy. Commander Steve Logan piloted his small reconnaissance ship through the outer edges of Zephyrian space. His ship looked like a simple cargo hauler, but it was packed with the most advanced spy equipment humanity could build. Steve watched his sensors as massive Zephyrian warships moved through space in perfect formation. He counted them carefully. 200 ships, all heading toward human territory. The aliens were clearly preparing for what they expected to be a quick and easy war against the weak humans. "Command, this is Logan," he said into his communicator. "The bugs are moving. Looks like they are planning something big." Back on Earth, President Helen White prepared to address the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from every human world, station and ship would hear her words. This would be the most important speech in human history. She walked onto the stage and looked out at the faces of humanity's leaders. These men and women had families on colonies that aliens threatened to destroy. They had friends who had died in the accidents that alien fleets caused near human space. "My fellow humans," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of human space through quantum communication networks. "For 3 years, we have tried to find our place in a galaxy that treats us like children to be managed and controlled. Assembly was completely quiet. Every person there knew what was coming. We have been patient. We have been reasonable. We have tried to make friends with species that see us as nothing more than amusing pets or annoying insects. President White paused and looked directly into the camera that would carry her words to every human world. That ends today. Today we stop asking for permission to exist as equals. Today we remind this galaxy exactly what kind of species builds. Cities in frozen wastelands, crosses oceans in wooden boats, and reaches for the stars despite every obstacle. The applause started slowly, then grew until it shook the building. On human colonies light years away, families gathered around their communication screens and cheered. On human ships traveling through deep space, crews shouted with joy. The aliens think we are weak because we prefer peace to war, President White continued. They mistake our kindness for cowardice, our patience for fear. They are about to learn how wrong they are. As her speech echoed across human space, changes were already happening on every human world. Civilian factories that had been making farming equipment were now producing military gear. Shipyards that had built exploration vessels were now creating warships. Most importantly, the human military was growing fast. Captain Jake Morrison had been an exploration ship commander just 6 months ago. Now he stood on the bridge of the destroyer Valiant, one of 50 new warships that had been built in secret during the failed peace talks. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "we are receiving new orders from Fleet Command." Jake looked at the message on his screen and smiled. Finally, after months of preparation, it was time to act. On the edge of human space, Commander Sarah Wells supervised the transformation of Kepler Prime from a simple mining colony into something the galaxy had never seen before. The colonists had been evacuated months ago, but the planet was far from empty. Hidden beneath what looked like abandoned mining equipment were the most advanced weapons humanity could build. Fake buildings concealed missile launchers. Artificial mountains hid powerful energy cannons. The entire planet had become one massive trap. "Colonel," one of her engineers reported, "the defense grid is complete. Any ship that lands on this planet will be in for a very unpleasant surprise." Sarah nodded. Intelligence reports suggested the Zephyrians would attack Kepler first, expecting to find frightened human colonists ready to surrender. Instead, they would find something very different. Back in the underground command center on Earth, General Carter received reports from across human space. Every colony was ready. Every ship was in position. Most importantly, the alien fleets were moving exactly as human intelligence had predicted. "Sir," Colonel Park said, "our agents report that the Galactic Council is meeting in emergency session. Apparently, they are discussing the human problem." Carter laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. "Let them discuss. While they talk, we act." He turned to address the room full of officers. These men and women represented the best military minds humanity had ever produced. They had studied every aspect of alien warfare and found the weaknesses that centuries of galactic peace had hidden. "Ladies and gentlemen," Carter said, "in 72 hours the Zephyrian Empire will attack human space. They expect to find the same peaceful species that has been asking politely for respect for 3 years. The room was completely silent. Instead, they will discover what happens when you threaten the families of a species that conquered an entire planet through violence, then decided to try diplomacy instead. Operation Prometheus begins now." As his words echoed through the command center, Similar scenes played out on human worlds throughout the galaxy. Military commanders received their orders. Ship captains powered up weapons that had been hidden for months. Soldiers who had been pretending to be farmers and miners revealed their true training. The galaxy had seen humans as peaceful explorers and friendly traders. They were about to meet the species that had survived ice ages, plague, war, and every other disaster their homeworld could produce. The age of human diplomacy was over. The age of human warfare was about to begin. Admiral Vexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, Dominion's Pride, and felt completely confident. Around his ship, 200 of the finest warships in the Zephyrian Empire moved through space in perfect formation. This would be the easiest victory in the history of his people. "Approaching the Kepler system now, Admiral," his navigation officer reported. Vexthul clicked his mandibles with satisfaction. Intelligence reports suggested the humans had abandoned their colonies rather than face the might of the Zephyrian Empire. Typical coward behavior from a weak species. "Begin scanning for human ships," he ordered. "I want to know if any of their pathetic vessels remain in the system." The sensor officer worked at his station for several minutes before reporting back. "Sir, I detect only a few small ships fleeing toward the outer planets. The colonies appear to be completely abandoned." Vexthul laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Perfect. The humans ran away without even trying to fight. Begin landing operations immediately." What Admiral Vexthul did not know was that Commander Sarah Wells and her team had spent 2 months turning Kepler Prime from a mining colony into the most dangerous trap in galactic history. Every building, every piece of mining equipment, every rock formation had been carefully designed to hide weapons and soldiers. The first wave of Zephyrian landing craft descended through the atmosphere, expecting to find empty cities and abandoned mining facilities. Instead, they found hell. Hidden missile batteries erupted from what had appeared to be simple mining equipment. Camouflaged energy cannons emerged from fake buildings. Underground bunkers that looked like natural cave formations opened to reveal human soldiers with weapons designed specifically to kill Zephyrians. "What is happening down there?" Vexthul demanded, as his communication systems filled with screams from his landing forces. "Sir, the planet is not abandoned," his communications officer reported, his voice shaking with fear. "It is a trap, a massive trap." But the real surprise was yet to come. The small human ships that had appeared to be fleeing suddenly changed course and accelerated back toward the Zephyrian fleet. Leading them was Captain Jake Morrison aboard the destroyer Valiant. "Attention, Zephyrian fleet," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "You have entered human space without permission and attacked our colonies. Surrender immediately, or face complete destruction." On the bridge of Dominion's Pride, every Zephyrian officer stared at their admiral in disbelief. A handful of tiny, human ships were threatening the entire Zephyrian Third Battle Fleet. Vexthul's laughter echoed through the bridge. "Destroy them immediately! Show these arrogant humans what happens when insects challenge eagles!" The Zephyrian fleet opened fire, with enough weapons to level a small moon. Their massive energy beams reached out toward the human ships, expecting to vaporize them instantly. Instead, the human vessels scattered in all directions, like startled fish. They moved in patterns that made no sense according to standard military doctrine, using the asteroid field around Kepler Prime as cover, while their smaller fighter craft swarmed through the Zephyrian formation. "Sir," the Zephyrian tactical officer reported, "the humans are not following standard combat procedures. They refuse to form battle lines or engage in proper ship-to-ship combat." "What are they doing?" Vex Thule demanded. "They are targeting our command ships, our supply vessels, and our communication arrays. They are ignoring our main battle cruisers completely." Vex Thule felt the first cold touch of fear in his chest. This was not how space battles were supposed to work. For centuries, galactic warfare had followed established rules. Ships would form neat battle lines and exchange fire until one side retreated or surrendered. It was civilized, predictable, and honorable. The humans were doing none of these things. Captain Pete Johnson led a squadron of human fighters through the center of the Zephyrian formation. His small ships darted between the massive alien vessels like angry wasps, striking at weak points and disappearing before the enemy could respond. "Blue Squadron, target their bridge sections," Pete ordered over the communication system. "Red Squadron, take out their engine blocks. Gold Squadron, destroy their sensor arrays." His wingman, Lieutenant Amy Foster, laughed as she strafed the command tower of a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. "Pete, these bugs have no idea how to handle fighters." "That's because they have never fought anyone crazy enough to use fighters against." "Capital ships," Pete replied as he lined up his own attack run. "Remember, we do not fight fair. We fight to win." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Zephyrians threw everything they had at the human forces, but nothing worked the way it was supposed to. Their superior numbers meant nothing when human ships refused to stay still long enough to be targeted. Their massive weapons were useless against enemies that moved too fast and struck from unexpected directions. Worst of all, the humans seemed to know exactly where to hit Zephyrian ships to cause maximum damage. Every attack targeted crucial systems: engines, weapons, life support, and command centers. It was as if the humans had studied Zephyrian ship design for years and identified every possible weakness, which, of course, they had. Admiral Vex Thule watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had served the Zephyrian Empire for decades exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Vessels that had conquered dozens of worlds drifted helplessly through space with their engines destroyed. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we have lost 60% of the fleet. Our remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Vex Thule stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How was this possible? How could a handful of primitive human ships destroy the pride of the Zephyrian military? The answer came when Captain Jake Morrison's voice echoed through the bridge of Dominion's pride. "Admiral Vex Thule, this is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Valiant. Your fleet is finished. Surrender now, and we will allow your surviving ships to leave our space." "Never!" Vex Thule screamed into his communicator. "The Zephyrian Empire does not surrender to inferior species." "Then you will die with your ships," Jake replied calmly. The final phase of the battle lasted only 20 minutes. Human vessels that had been fighting scattered through the asteroid field suddenly formed coordinated attack groups. They moved with a precision that seemed impossible, striking at the remaining Zephyrian ships from multiple directions simultaneously. Admiral Vex Thule's final transmission was a warning to his government. "The humans fight like nothing we have ever faced. They show no mercy, follow no rules, and seem to know exactly how to kill us. This is not warfare as we understand it. This is slaughter." The Dominion's pride exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the Kepler system like a small sun. When the shooting stopped, the Zephyrian Third Battle Fleet no longer existed. 200 warships had been reduced to floating debris and emergency escape pods. The few Zephyrian vessels that managed to escape carried news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. On Kepler Prime, Commander Sarah Wells, emerged from her command bunker and looked up at the sky. Burning chunks of alien warships fell through the atmosphere like metal rain. "Command, this is Wells," she reported. "Kepler Prime is secure. Enemy ground forces have been eliminated." Back on Earth, General Carter received the battle report with grim satisfaction. The first battle of the war had gone exactly as planned. The aliens had expected to fight the same peaceful humans who had sat quietly at negotiation tables for 3 years. Instead, they had met the species that had spent those 3 years studying alien weaknesses and preparing for exactly this moment. "Sir," Colonel Park said, "long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements from every major galactic power. It looks like they are forming some kind of alliance." Carter nodded. He had expected this. The destruction of a major alien battle, fleet would not go unanswered. Soon humanity would face the combined military might of dozens of species. "Good," he said quietly. "Let them come. The more of them we face at once, the faster we can end this war." The victory at Kepler had sent a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer asking for respect. From now on, they would take it. 3 days after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Kate Morrison returned to Nexus Prime Station. But this time, she was not there to beg for peace. She was there to dictate terms. The council chamber was half empty. Many of the representatives who had voted for war against humanity were now dealing with burning cities and shattered fleets on their home worlds. Kate walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the surviving alien delegates. Their arrogance had been replaced by fear. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "the age of humanity asking for permission is over. From this day forward, human space is off limits to your fleets. Our colonies are under our protection. Our trade routes are secured by our military." 3 days after the Battle of Seoul, Ambassador Kate Morrison returned to Nexus Prime Station. But this time, she was not there to beg for peace. She was there to dictate terms. The council chamber was half empty. Many of the representatives who had voted for war against humanity were now dealing with burning cities and shattered fleets on their home worlds. Kate walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the surviving alien delegates. Their arrogance had been replaced by fear. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "the age of humanity asking for permission is over. From this day forward, human space is off limits to your fleets. Our colonies are under our protection. Our trade routes are secured by our military." Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alien message came through. The communication system on his ship, the UES Defender, started making loud noises. His crew looked up from their workstations. They had never heard sounds like this before. Lieutenant Amy Collins worked at the communication desk. She turned some switches and the strange alien sounds became words in English. The voice was cold and mechanical. "Captain Morrison, you will send this message to your planet leaders. The Zephyrian Empire rules over 200 star systems. We control many worlds across the galaxy. We demand that the human world called Earth surrender to us right now." Morrison put down his coffee cup. He was calm but alert. His crew watched him carefully. They could tell something big was happening. The alien voice continued. "Your people have moved beyond your home system without asking us first. This cannot be allowed. You have 72 hours to accept our rule. If you refuse, we will send our grand fleet to take your world by force." The message ended with a sharp burst of static. The bridge became very quiet. Only the soft humming of the ship's engines could be heard. Morrison looked around at his crew. Some looked worried, but others seemed almost amused. Navigator Peter Walsh broke the silence. "Well, that is something new," Morrison nodded. "Amy, contact Admiral Carter at Command Central. Make it priority 1. Within a few minutes, Admiral Lisa Carter appeared on the main screen. She was an older woman with gray hair pulled back tight. Her blue eyes were sharp and alert. She looked concerned, but not afraid. "Jake, I guess you are calling about our new friends," Carter said. Her voice had a slight southern accent. "Yes, Admiral. They think we need their permission to explore space." Carter's face showed what might have been a small smile. "That is an interesting way to think about it. I have already sent their message to the Council. Our response should be educational. Admiral, they are talking about a grand fleet. Our intelligence reports say the Zephyrians have serious weapons." "Oh, I am sure they do, Captain. The question is whether they understand what they are dealing with." Carter's smile became clearer. "Keep flying your patrol route, Jake. Keep your crew ready for some excitement." When the transmission ended, Morrison turned back to his crew. They all looked at him with the same expression Admiral Carter had shown. They looked ready and confident. "Sir," said Lieutenant Collins, "are we really just going to wait for them to show up?" Morrison sat back in his captain's chair. "Amy, sometimes the best defense is just being patient. Let us see what our friends in the Empire are really made of." Back on Earth, Admiral Carter was meeting with the Solar Defense Council. The meeting room was deep underground in the Rocky Mountains. General Marcus Stone stood in front of a holographic display that showed the outer parts of the solar system. "Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire," General Stone said, reading from an intelligence report. "He has won 12 conquest wars. His fleet has about 500 ships, including their biggest and strongest warships." "That sounds impressive," said Dr. Patricia Hayes. She was a small woman who ran the Solar Defense Initiative. "But I wonder if they have studied us carefully." General Stone raised an eyebrow. "Doctor, 500 warships is not something to ignore." Dr. Hayes adjusted her glasses and smiled. "Marcus, you have fought too many ground wars. Space fighting is different. Size is not everything." Admiral Carter stood up and walked to the holographic display. She put her hands behind her back. "The Council has made its decision. We will respond to their demand with a simple message. Earth says no to their offer. We ask them to leave our space peacefully." "And if they will not leave?" asked General Stone. Carter's smile was now clear to see. "Then we show them why humanity did not ask permission to reach the stars in the first place." On his ship, Morrison thought about what was coming. He had been in space for many years. He had fought pirates and seen many strange things. But this was different. The aliens sounded very sure of themselves. They thought humans would be easy to defeat. His communication officer, Amy, looked worried. "Captain, do you think they will really attack Earth?" Morrison thought carefully before answering. "Amy, in my experience, bullies usually do what they threaten to do. The question is whether they understand what they are threatening." "What do you mean, sir?" Morrison smiled. "Well, think about it this way. They have ruled many worlds and won many wars. They probably think all species are the same. They expect us to either run away scared or fight them with big ships and big guns." Amy nodded. "And we are not going to do either of those things?" "Amy, humans have always been good at surprising people who underestimate us. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian Empire was preparing for war. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign Fang. He was a tall alien with scaled skin and large dark eyes. His officers moved around the bridge, preparing for the journey to Earth. "Admiral," said his censor officer Veltar, "the Grand Fleet is ready to depart. All 512 ships report ready for hyperspace jump." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. "Excellent. Begin the jump sequence. It is time to teach these humans about the power of the Empire." The Grand Fleet disappeared from Zephyrian space in flashes of bright light. They were heading toward Earth, carrying enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. Admiral Kethvar was confident. He had never lost a conquest war. He did not expect the humans to be different from any other primitive species. But back on Earth, preparations of a different kind were taking place. Dr. Hayes was working late in her laboratory, checking systems that most people did not know existed. Her screen showed data from across the entire solar system. "Kevin," she called to her assistant, "bring the outer monitors online. I want to know the moment they arrive." Dr. Kevin Park typed commands into his computer. "All systems are responding normally, Doctor. The network is ready." Dr. Hayes smiled as she watched numbers and graphs fill her screens. "Good. Let our visitors come. They are going to learn something very important about assumptions." Admiral Carter received regular reports throughout the night. Ships across the solar system were moving to new positions. To outside observers, it looked like normal patrol activities. But Carter knew better. Every ship was moving to a specific location for a specific reason. "Admiral," said Colonel Frank Torres, "all units report in position. Phase 1 is complete." "Thank you, Frank. Dr. Hayes, are your systems ready?" Dr. Hayes looked up from her computer screens. "Ready and waiting, Admiral. When they arrive, they will find Earth exactly as prepared as it needs to be." General Stone still looked concerned. "Lisa, I have to ask again. Are you sure about this plan? 500 enemy ships is a lot of firepower." Carter put her hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, trust me. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to let the other side make the first mistake." As Earth prepared for the coming confrontation, Captain Morrison and his crew continued their patrol. They could see nothing unusual in space around them. But Morrison knew that appearances could be deceiving. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was coming to attack his home. They expected humans to surrender or die fighting. They were about to learn that humans had other ideas.